Picking up from the last video, we saw that there is the same economic analysis for on-the-job training as for the human capital investment in college. Net present value greater than zero or an internal rate of return greater than the market interest rate justify the investment. That is, would make the investment an efficient allocation. The costs for on-the-job training can be direct and indirect. A direct cost would be classroom instruction, books, trainers. Many corporations, for example, have training departments that assemble a lot of training resources, almost like academic environments do. The indirect cost is the opportunity cost of working time lost. If a firm is going to put a worker through an on-the-job training program, they're going to have to divert that worker from doing their usual job. And that creates an indirect cost for that training. But of course, there's benefits. And the benefits are really the increased productivity. So businesses look at the costs, they look at the benefits, and they decide who's going to get on-the-job training and who's not going to get on-the-job training. So it's really very similar to what you do when you decide to go to college. You make a human capital investment based on the benefits and costs in order to become more productive in the future. And on-the-job training, firms make an investment based on the benefits and costs with the goal of achieving higher productivity in the future. There are two types of on-the-job training, general and specific. General training is training that is transferable to other firms. So if you work at, let's say, Vons as a cashier, you develop customer service skills that would be transferable to many other customer service jobs. You could work in a coffee house, you could work at Walmart, you could work in a lot of different positions. So that's general training. Specific training is unique to that particular firm. This type of training is not really transferable. For example, if you work at Vons as a cashier, likely Vons has a register that operates a certain way. Ringing up customers might be different than if you were ringing them up at McDonald's or at Walmart. You therefore have specific training so that you can work on Vons's computer system, whereas when you go to another firm, that training probably wouldn't help you much. Training is always a mixture of both. So it's a matter of magnitude. Customer service is very much general training and transferable, but there are elements that would be specific to the firm. And a particular cashier or cash register and computer system would be highly specific training. But once you've worked on one company's computer system, much of that might transfer over to other companies. So it's magnitude as opposed to one or the other. With that in mind, let's first analyze general training. We're going to do this through a model here that puts the training period and the post-training period on the horizontal axis. And when we're evaluating a worker's productivity, we often use a metric called marginal revenue product. This is the change in total revenue from adding an additional unit of labor. It's the firm's way of looking at how much you contribute per, let's say, hour of labor to their total revenue. The thing about marginal revenue product is because it's the value you're generating for the firm, firms don't want to pay you any more than that. If for one reason or another your marginal revenue product is $20 an hour, a firm would be willing to pay you up to $20 an hour, but they don't want to pay more than that. And in fact, you would become unemployable if the wage went above your marginal revenue product. That said, let's look at the training periods and how this affects the wage that they pay and the marginal revenue product that the worker achieves. Let's first imagine a worker that is not going to undergo any training. That's represented by this blue line here. This worker is getting a wage equal to their marginal revenue product. We don't need to put numbers on these, but if you wanted to think about it, this worker is making, say, $15 an hour, and they're generating $15 an hour for the business. Okay? This is an untrained worker. So there is no training occurring, and after the training is the same as before the training. Okay? Now let's shift to a trainee. During the training period, this worker that's given general training is going to have their wage cut to the level of their marginal revenue product. Look, if I take somebody from a job they're currently doing in the business, maybe they're a cook at a fast food restaurant, and they want to become a cashier in the fast food restaurant. Well, if I take them from being a cook and make them a cashier, their productivity is going to drop because that's a new job to them. They're not trained in that job yet. So the marginal revenue product is going to go from here during the training period down to here. And for general training, I'm going to reduce their pay accordingly. Okay? So the wage will drop to their marginal revenue product. If they were making $15 as a cook and generating $15 in marginal revenue product, in order to train them, I'm going to cut their wage. Let's say their marginal revenue product drops to $12 an hour. Well, I'm going to cut their wage to $12 an hour. That's what this illustration shows. Of course, once the training is done, then they're going to be more proficient and trained as a cashier, and their productivity is going to go up to marginal revenue product post-training. And I am going to pay them now a higher wage than I paid during the training and I paid when they were untrained. So in essence, I'm going to raise their wage. Maybe now their marginal revenue product goes up to $18 an hour, so I'm going to raise their wage to $18. Again, we don't have to use numbers, but if it helps, feel free to. So notice the process here. With general training, the firm is going to, during the training period, cut your wage to equal your marginal revenue product, and then after the training is over, they're going to raise your wage to equal your marginal revenue product. Well, who's incurring the cost of the training and who's getting the benefits? If during the training you get your pay cut to your lower productivity, but then after the training you get your pay raised to the higher productivity, then you as the worker are effectively paying for that general training through a lower wage and then reaping the benefits of that with a higher wage. General training is very similar to college because what does a college student do? They actually go out and buy their own training and then get a job after the training is done at a higher wage than they would have otherwise gotten. And another aspect of general training we need to consider is minimum wage laws. You see, the firm, they're expecting the worker to incur the cost of the training. When I take that cook from the kitchen where their marginal revenue product is here and I'm paying them the same amount, and I put them up front in a customer service position, their productivity goes down. Their marginal revenue product drops, and I need to decrease the wage in order to pass that training expense on to them. However, I may not be able to do that. Let's go back to our previous numbers. Let's say that cook in the kitchen is making $15 an hour and generating $15 an hour in marginal revenue product. I take him out of the kitchen, put him in the front of house, and now his marginal revenue product drops to $12 an hour. But because the minimum wage is $15, I can't cut his pay to his lower marginal revenue product, which means that I'm not going to have a desire to train him. I'm not going to be willing to give him that customer service position because I would bear that cost. And I'm not willing to do that. You say, but why are you not willing to do it? Wouldn't that make him more productive if he can work in the front of house as well as in the back? Wouldn't that be beneficial to you, the employer? The problem is we're talking about general training. And general training is transferable to other firms. So think about what happens. Let's say I do take that financial hit. I effectively take a $3 an hour loss, paying him $15 an hour and getting a marginal revenue product of 12. I take a $3 an hour loss in order to train him as a customer service person. And then we finish his training. Now his productivity is way up here at a higher marginal revenue product, say $18 an hour. Okay? Now, I can't recover that. I have to pay him $18 an hour because the skills that he has are transferable to other firms. So if I say to him at this point, hey, I paid for your training. I took a loss on your training all this time. I paid you $15 an hour while you were only generating 12. If I tell him that at this point that he should, accept a lower wage, he can just go somewhere else and get the higher wage. He can get the $18 an hour at another firm because the skills that I gave him are transferable. That's the problem with general training. Firms don't want to take a loss on the training because they know that once that worker is trained, that worker is going to expect to get paid for their higher productivity, or they'll leave and use that general training at another business. So this results in less general training for employees if the minimum wage is such that it would prevent the firm from lowering the training wage to the marginal revenue product. Now let's look at specific training. With specific training, the skills I'm giving the worker are unique to my company. They can't be transferred to other employers. So we start out with the same marginal revenue product and wage for the untrained worker. And let's assume our numbers from before, it's $15. But now I'm going to take that worker that's untrained and I'm going to put them in a new job. And this particular job is going to require a skill set that is unique to my firm. So their marginal revenue product during the training is going to drop, no doubt. Let's say it drops from 15, marginal revenue product untrained, down to 12, marginal revenue product trained. And then once they complete the training, their marginal revenue product is going to go up to post-training. Let's say $18. From the standpoint of their marginal revenue product, it's very similar to general training. Marginal revenue product drops during the training, and it goes up after the training. No difference. The question is, who's going to pay for the training and who's going to get the benefits? In specific training, the firm is not able to lower the wage to the lower marginal revenue product during the training period. And once the training is done, the worker is not able to get a higher wage to equal their higher marginal revenue product. Notice throughout the training and post-training, the wages stay the same. From the worker's standpoint, their training wage is the same as their post-training wage, which was the same as their untrained wage, which was the same as their original marginal revenue product. Now, what does this mean for the firm? It means that they reap the costs of this because they're going to take a lower marginal revenue product and continue to pay the training wage as the same as the untrained wage. And then when the training is over, they're going to get a higher marginal revenue product and be able to continue to pay the post-training wage, which is the same as the original untrained wage. To put our numbers on it, the firm's going to pay you $15 throughout the entire training and post-training period. During the training period, they're going to be taking a loss because they're getting a marginal revenue product of, say, $12. But once that training is done, they're going to start to reap the fruits of their investment by getting a marginal revenue product of $18 and still pay you $15. So with specific training, the firm takes the training expense but gets the post-training returns. Whereas with general training, the worker takes the training expense but gets the post-training returns.